Welcome, everybody. We're so glad to have you join us for an intimate roundtable with some very accomplished AWFC members. Today, we have with us Yvette Metoyer, Michelle Johnson, Sara Barone, and Amanda Jones. My name is Ronit Kirchman. I'm co-president of the AWFC, and
I'm Taura Stinson, co-president of the AWFC. First of all, thank you, Amanda, for allowing us to gather in your beautiful home. We really appreciate it. This seals the vibes of just womanhood coming together with Sunday brunch and a toast.
So we are gathered here to amplify the presence and talents of women in music and in film. And we are going to toast to the accumulation of success day by day, month by month, year by year, until women are occupying their true sovereign place in the industry and in artistry. So hopefully we can all toast to that. Cheers.
Ashe. Okay, so this is so important, such a big, important conversation, I think. Every time we have a round table with just women, it just makes my heart sing. And we love men, and we represent, and we love being in shared spaces, but having our own is so important. And what we at the AWFC wanted to do is to build, or what we're doing is building our own table. And and this is what a beautiful table this is. So I just want to jump right into the conversation about your projects. What does being recognized for this particular work mean to you? Not just the nomination itself, but this project being the thing that people are seeing and celebrating right now.
Yeah, so for Murderbot, it was such a joyous experience working on this project, and a true artistic expression. Very, very few notes, and it was just an incredible experience with the Apple team, the Paramount team, and the showrunners, Chris and Paul Weitz. So it was just a gift, and that was across the board in all departments. It was a gift that they gave us to just be our artistic selves, and just everyone just really elevated the show. So it was a fantastic experience. I'm glad it's being recognized.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so for The Beast in Me, it was such a collaborative project from the very beginning. Sean and Tim and I started really early, just writing music based on the script, and we had the luxury of time to really work together really closely from the beginning and kind of make all these theme ideas and suites. And the showrunners were really supportive of us doing, expressing ourselves and bringing 3 different voices, to the show, and being bold. So yeah, from the start to finish, it was just a really collaborative and rewarding experience.
That's very cool. I mean, I know that everyone has had such a beautiful experience because it's showing in the work. But not to interrupt Michelle. How about you?
I mean, it comes off of what Amanda and Sara said. But this season of The Boys was our final season, and it was guaranteed to be the most bloodiest, darkest, craziest thing.
And that's saying something.
And that's saying something. But you know what? The show has such heart and hope about it, from the very beginning. And that's how it ended. And it was just having that support from our producers and showrunners, and just letting us be creative and fun and do what we do. So it was great.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with Michelle. And I think that, also with she and I sharing the same background, or certainly a similar background, being able to put our own personalities into this production, and being able to get to this point where we could be a little bit autonomous and sharing ideas and having those ideas accepted. It has been a really wonderful production to be a part of.
It does seem like even in these initial responses, collaboration and that the open lines of communication, as well as kind of being able to having room to have your own sense of identity, are kind of the key factors that came together to allow you to bring something original to the project, which is really, I think, part of why these are such standout projects. So I guess it would be lovely to hear a little bit more about what in the environment made you feel like you could bring more of yourself into it. And are there any thoughts you have about what you brought to it that allowed that conversation to open up, as well as like what the showrunners or what is it that creates that environment? Because I think we all want to see more of that.
I think specifically for the boys, having a real supportive post-production team. Our post-producer on the show, Gabriel, was really sort of the through line between us and with the showrunners and producers and editors. And he has always championed us throughout the process, and the door was always open. If there were any challenges we had on our end, and we certainly had challenges from time to time, he would be the one to say, okay, well, here's a game plan. This is how we're going to approach, the situation, and that goes with dealing with the studio, certainly dealing with production. But it just opened the door, I think, to make us feel comfortable that we could, proceed and feel like there wasn't going to be any sort of pushback, whether it was something creative or, on the budget side, really all of the above. The door just always felt open for us.
That's amazing that it felt open. Do you feel like there's been a change in that way? Like there's a question that is really important for me to ask, because women in music for film and television are often asked about obstacles. There's a two-part thing to this. I also want to say Yvette is the first Black woman to be nominated for music supervision.
Whoa.
Yes.
I had no idea.
Yeah. I mean, that's also like a yay and
a yay and a very sobering.
It's kind of one of those things. But we have a group, Black Women in Media Collective, and that's just something that, that came to mind to us. It's like, this is a first. And wanting to abolish first. How do we do that? Like, not just for women in general. Like, how do you feel? How do each of you feel? We are elevating. I feel that we're elevating. How are we doing it? How can we encourage the people that are watching to do the same?
I mean, for me, I think having people that do the work that I'm a fan of, just having that exposure so that I can see that, oh, this person can do XYZ, I can too. And what is that path? Pilar McCurry was a music supervisor.
Amazing. Yeah. Legendary.
15, 20 years ago, and did amazing projects. May she rest in peace.
Yes.
But she lives on through the work that she did.
Yes.
And I think today our work will live on as well, and people can always look up a project, see who's on it. But I think as far as like the next generation, the idea is, how do you pay it forward? If there's a possibility of having the door open to maybe mentor someone, even if it's a short period of time, it's like any little bit, would help. And I know I'm still forever grateful for having that first opportunity to sort of get in the door.
And Pilar did an iconic soundtrack. She did Love and Basketball, right? Was it?
And Love Jones.
Love Jones.
Several.
She was legendary. It was great to have just known that I've sat across for her, in a meeting. She's amazing.
It does sound like, do you feel that that's something women in particular kind of are sensitive to? I mean, I agree with you if that's what you're saying, because I think that there is a nurturing or a care given to who's coming next and to the community that I think I sense. And when people feel it, it definitely translates across the whole production.
I'll just say, at least, for me, coming into it, there was always a self-awareness. Like, I know where I sit in a room of men. I know where I sit in a room of anyone in production. And I think having that self-awareness, I think, again, for me, just coming up from teenage years till now, you kind of just have it, right? Because it was rare for a time that you would be in the rooms and you would have, the ability to have those conversations. And so having that self-awareness, I think, helps you to see other folks, to see them and to make sure that they're heard. Whereas folks who may not have that same sort of background, it's not even really a thought, And it may not, it's not just applied to women. I think it's just people in general who are developing that self-awareness.
I will have to call you out on being one of the founders of the CDC. And so that work is important to you as well. So important.
Yeah, I think it's so, like, our advocacy groups, the Alliance and the Composers Diversity Collective, it's important to, create programming that allows for mentorship, education, and also facilitating opportunities, and like directly connecting composers to the studios. Like, it has to be that intentional, to just break down the pipeline issue that exists. Yeah. So it's every year we got to knock on the doors of all the studios, all the, music people, any sort of tastemaker, and just be very intentional about creating spaces for composers to interface with those folks to meet them.
It's breaking habits and
exactly,
introducing new ones,
and widen their network, exactly, and to just that makes them feel comfortable. It's just like you have to get to know someone, so you have to create spaces that allow people to get to know each other, to like break down that barrier. It's important, but it has to be very intentional.
And the value that actually brings to the projects, like Yvette is pointing out, I think is something really that I want to emphasize, because the points of view that are being included actually really enrich the final product, as well as the whole environment that people are working in. So, more listening.
Yes. We should give you both a chance to speak on this as well, because I know, just like being a woman and being a composer, being a music supervisor, I know that music, like oftentimes, like music supervisors are always like mixers, and they're syncing like all these different things to pay it forward, and these spaces and where we can pay it forward. How do you two go about that?
Well, I just think mentorship is such a huge thing. And just looking back at when I started out, how much I valued those opportunities to learn from and just how generous a lot of people were to me. I remember back before I moved to LA, I was still in New York, and I participated in a couple of the like ASCAP workshops. And that's actually where I met Sean Callery there. And we became friends, and sort of over the years, he always was there to give me advice. He wrote me recommendations for things, and really it was like a long-lasting mentorship and friendship that came out of that. And then now we are working together in co-scoring, and I'm really grateful for that. So I really value mentorships, and that's something I try to do now and hope to do more of. It's just like always meeting with like younger composers that are looking for advice, or also just to hear about your path, because everyone's path is so different. So to just like hear how different, all the different ways that you can get into the industry, and it's just really valuable.
Answering a DM. That's harmless.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, especially music supervision, it is such an apprentice world. Like, you can only learn our business from someone else, really. I mean, you can take classes, and there's great classes, but you have to be in it with somebody who has done it before and knows the pitfalls and ins and outs to help guide you, and I'll definitely try to do that as much as I can. But I'll always have time for somebody who's considering getting into music supervision or any aspect of our community. I always urge them to look at every different avenue within our business, because there's so many different worlds within the music supervision community that could be a better fit too, you know? So I think that's really important as well, not to just tout your own industry as the be all end all, but to, you know, help educate others based on, you know, we've met with publishers and labels and independent sync companies and boutique trailer houses, everything. And all of those are like such rich avenues to explore. And so it's
a part of the ecosystem.
Yeah, it's part of the ecosystem, and we all exist together. And I will say that I find our community to be so open and supportive in general, and that's really been lovely to experience.
So to Michelle's point, you know, there's certainly other entities within our field, as far as our colleagues and businesses, that industries that we work with. But I did want to just mention the idea behind mentorship and wanting to support, you know, a newbie. You know, it's still a bit of a push to fight for budgets, you know, for our industry. And so I think if we had the support financially to bring on someone as an intern or an assistant on a regular basis, that would certainly open up the door for more opportunities to make that happen. But typically, you know, budgets mostly support the work that we do as individuals. And so it can be tricky to bring someone on, especially with having to do paid internships. So here in California, so it can be a bit of a challenge. But I think still we try to do it as much as we can.
Yeah. Ideally, conversations like these do bring awareness to the fact that music in all of its forms really does require a budget, and both for, you know, situations and resources, but also for people who are making their living through this work. So, you know, I think the proof is always in the pudding. If you take away the score, if you take away the songs, that's not really the same story at all. I mean, it's really, really crucial. And I think I've been thinking about it a lot, but I think part of the challenge is that you can't see it, you can't touch it. It's so transcendent. It's almost too transcendent.
Right.
But I think that grounding it in these conversations hopefully will continue to make people think about how they want to spend what they have, and try to make room for more.
And also utilizing places like the AWFC, like we have mentoring programs and
amazing
when,
mentoring,
if ever like you're in need of an assistant, like we are thinking up ways of like partnering mid-career and the younger generation together all the time. So and then there's Academy Gold, and then I'm sure the Emmys has something. There's always you know, there's always an organization looking to, you know, teach the next generation. I hope, you know, I know we are, you know. Yeah.
For sure. Is it okay? I have a little question I want to ask, but okay. So we've been talking a lot about global structural issues, which I think is really important. I'm so grateful to have this space to talk about it. I also think it's very important to highlight specific artistry within this. So on that note, I kind of want to shine a light and have an opportunity to hear a little bit more about each of your kind of personal journey, and I guess like maybe a formative experience that really shaped your interest in the field, your sense of purpose or direction, and, you know, take it wherever you want it, I think. Go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, I did not think about starting my career as a music supervisor because I didn't really know what a music supervisor was at that time. I just assumed that, you know, some of my favorite shows that had impactful music moments, those songs were selected by the producer of the show or the director of the film. And to an extent, that has some merit. But I did go to school, not for music. I just dabble in piano. But I interned at a video game company in their PR department because I majored in communications. And realized that publicity was not really my thing. And then segued over into production on reality TV.
Oh, wow.
Somewhere along those lines,
Can you say the show?
Oh, God, really? Okay, well, there was a show. Well, first of all, The Bachelor sort of kicked off a whole genre of dating game shows, basically. So it was NBC's version of it called Average Joe.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
I feel so sorry for you.
I never watched it.
Yeah. So it was Average Joe, and I was a production coordinator. 12-hour days minimum. Overtime did not start until the 13th hour. And I just realized I was giving so much of my life to this production. Like, I had no time to do anything except for the weekends, and that was just errands, you know. But around that time, I had met a young guy who was working at Access Hollywood, which is entertainment news program. And his responsibility was to select songs for music bumpers between news programs. So once he told me that, I said, that's exactly what I want to do to some extent. Yeah, exactly. That's a job. Any way to sort of play with music. And I didn't mention, but when I left Activision, I interned at NBC. And so they did have a music department there who specialized like with soundtracks. And I did a short internship with them, but they weren't hiring, so I couldn't really get in that way. But anyway, long story short, I had no luck like doing cold emails, reaching out to music supervisors. They were still relatively obscure to the average person. But I did work for different film and TV productions as a production coordinator still, but these were scripted programs now. And then there was a writer's strike. And I'm not talking about the one just a few years ago.
The first one.
The first one, yeah. And so I was out of work for a few months, and I just said to myself, well, Yvette, you're in LA, you're in Los Angeles. If you really want to get into the music supervision side and try to connect with someone, see if there's a course maybe at USC or UCLA. Turned out there was one at UCLA. Took the class. Class happened to be taught by Thomas Golubich, who was music supervising Breaking Bad at the time. Oh, wow. I had not met him. I was not familiar with him at the time. Just a class he was teaching. And by the end of the course, he had made an announcement that he was looking for an assistant. His assistant was moving on. Wow. And so I sped home, probably deserved a ticket, but I updated my resume and made a mix CD, turned it in. It got me an interview. And then we did meet, and I got hired for an internship. And it was an internship. There was no pay, but it was exactly where I wanted to be at that time. It was a foot in the door.
That's that's free game she just passed out. Like you did the work, you made like a mixtape. That is something that you can lead with if you're watching this and you're wondering, how do I become a music supervisor? Maybe that's one of the steps.
Yeah, it totally works. And I think it gives, the person who you might connect with an opportunity to see your personality. Like, who is it? What kind of music do you respond to?
Speak in the language of music.
Exactly. But yeah, so that internship turned into like a 10-year working relationship until 2020 when I went off on my own. And the rest is history.
Amazing origin story.
And for me, I was living in New York, working in a completely different industry. I was working in real estate, but I'd always played in bands, done DJing, things like that. And I loved music and film and television, but I didn't know there was a job, at all. And didn't even think never considered that I could work in the music business in any way, shape, or form. And I decided to leave New York because I just got so over the weather, to be honest. And I moved out. I had a good friend who had moved out here, and I would go and visit, and I fell in love with Los Angeles and Southern California. And so I came out, and I knew I wanted to work in music and entertainment somehow, but I really had no idea how. And I was DJing in different clubs, and I was meeting a lot of filmmakers and artists, and they were asking me to help them with music for their independent projects. And so I started doing that, and that was all fun creatively, but when it came time to licensing, I had no earthly idea how to do any of that. I bought a book at Barnes and Noble about music supervision. I read that, and I was like, okay, I send this quote, and there you go. But no one had money to pay for licenses, and so then I started looking at like less expensive avenues and things like that. And I sort of struggled with that for a couple years, and I was working as a PA for a producer. And I think, during that crash, like 2008 or so, everybody was getting laid off. I got laid off, and I said, well, this is how I'm going to make it my intention to find a job in this.
Wow, it's very parallel.
In this world. And it gets even more parallel. And so,
Just wait.
And so I just moved to, not just moved, but I moved into Silver Lake, and I was living there for a couple of years. And I started dating my now wife and meeting her friends, who were expanding the friend group. And a couple of those friends were like, oh, you live near our friend Thomas. And I was like, I do? She's like, yeah, he's a music supervisor. I'm like, I'm sorry, what? And so I asked them to introduce me to him. And literally we were 2 houses away from each other, but because we were in one of those stairway streets, like the way he got to his house was completely different from the way I got to my house. But I'd realized I had helped lost partygoers find their way to his home for many years.
You're like, you just take the zip line and then
yeah. I was like, go up through here, I know it's dark, but you'll be all right, and go down that way. And so I met with him, and he said, I don't really have enough work to hire anybody else. And I said, okay, keep me in mind. So he suggested a few things, nothing really worked out. And he hired me as like just for a project thing to manage. He needed these videos cut to certain music, and I could do a little video editing at that time. And so I started doing that for him, and I really just project managed, because he was basically like, here's 4,000 videos, and just put those to music, and just some of them, maybe 10. And I was like, okay. So I did, and it was really fun, and I really enjoyed it. Yeah. And he liked how I worked, liked my taste, and I even had to music edit a few things, and he was not horrified at the results, so that was good.
Were you working there at that?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But I did that on my own. It was outside there, and then he was going to Sundance, I think, and he said, can you work as an intern and do a lot of, because he also was realizing that I was very good at researching. And so I was helping research stuff and things like that. And I think I just showed up and Yvette was like, who the hell are you? And I was like, and I said to myself, I am going to make myself indispensable, and this will be my job.
Amazing.
And that's what happened.
Very cool. I love that there's kismet. There's serendipity. It's like, there's these like little magical moments. I feel
Finding
like when you're
opening and just going.
If it's a door open, walk through it. Yeah.
I think, and all of that, plus that special personal need and the awareness, like when the opportunity comes, like, I better go home and fix my resume now.
Yeah. Right. What about you, Sara? I want to know your.
Yeah. I mean, it's so fascinating to hear about everyone's origin stories, and especially like how you connect and all of that. It's such a small world. But yeah, I mean, I grew up playing music, and I always dreamed of doing film scoring. I never knew how to do that, like how to even get a job in this world. I'm from Rhode Island. I grew up in Rhode Island, and I ended up going, I did classical piano growing up, and I ended up going to Columbia in New York City, where I studied composition. And I was very much surrounded by like the contemporary classical world of music. And I felt kind of like the only one that was trying to do media scoring and tonal music. And so it was kind of an interesting experience. But I had a really wonderful teacher there who's a really great composer herself, Zasha DeCastri. And she sort of really made space for me and mentored me and helped me as much as she could, sort of develop my voice as a composer, and just sort of gave me all sorts of invaluable advice. And at that time, I was also, I mentioned before, those workshops at NYU. ASCAP and BMI had these workshops where they brought composers from, like, working successful composers in to mentor students. And that's really where I started. I participated in those workshops, and I started sort of like seeing, this is like an actual career. These are people that are working in this industry, and they're sharing, invaluable information about how they got to where they are. And it sort of felt to me, I met some great people there, and I sort of felt like, okay, I need to find my way out to LA somehow, because that seemed like what everyone was saying. So I ended up going to USC and doing my master's in screen scoring here, which was really wonderful. But I would say my first couple of assistant jobs are when I really started learning about how to work in this industry. And it's funny, they always say that you learn a lot in school, but never as much as you do on your first job. And that was definitely the case. I had a couple of really great early assistantship opportunities. Well, actually, my first job was working with Sanna Wehrmeyer, really wonderful composer. She was working on a Netflix series called Shira and needed a composer. And I was sort of like thrown into the deep end working with her. And I got the gig from a former USC student who had worked with her and connected us. So a lot of my jobs kind of came from the USC world. I'm really grateful to them. They did such a great job of connecting us with people working in the industry. And yeah, that's kind of, it was an animated series, like very like wall-to-wall music, all in the box.
You went to Columbia and USC undergrad. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. That show, I learned so much on that show, because she's such a fantastic composer, and the demands of that show are really, really high. It's such a quick turnaround. It was wall-to-wall orchestral music, so that's really kind of where I cut my teeth in that. But it was a kind of interesting job because it was remote, because she was based in the UK at that time, and so it was very kind of like, me in the studio alone.
That was pre-pandemic, right?
Yeah.
So on the cutting edge of working process.
Yeah. So it was interesting. And I went from that job to working, doing another assistant job with Junkie XL, just down the street in Tarzana. And that was really where I just learned about teamwork and really what it takes to score, studio level movies at that level that he does. And we had a big team. And
what do you think the biggest, what insight could you offer into what you learned about teamwork specifically? Like what were some of the takeaways or surprises? Things that you keep kind of with you as you work now?
It's a good question. I think what was really cool about working there is everyone had such a different role, and we were all led by Tom, his creative vision, but everyone, we had someone there who was doing synth design like full time and just making all these custom synth sounds for us, and we had some technical people like wizards doing tech stuff, and then we had several writers who were kind of each focusing in a certain area. Like some were very electronic, more so, and others more kind of orchestral composers. So we were all sort of had different things that we brought to the table. And I think something I think he did really well was putting together, hardworking people who also just got along really well. I don't know how he sort of managed to do that. But those people that I met there are still like some of my best friends. And I think when you have like the right team, obviously talented people, but who also understand each other and work really
together.
Well together. It's as important, I think, as having the skills is also having the attitude. And so yeah, that's kind of where I really learned just so much about working at a studio level on multiple projects at a time. And so I'm really grateful for those kind of early assistantship opportunities. And then after that, I went on my own and been freelance. But yeah,
amazing. I'm getting like, was it me or you that's next?
Go for it.
I'm like, we're doing.
It's good that we don't know. We're in the flow.
Yeah, when you're just getting lost in the conversation. Yeah, I think this is important in terms of collaboration with songwriters, composers, and music supervisors. How important is the relationship between composers, songwriters, and music supervisors in shaping the musical identity of a project?
I mean, I guess it depends on the project too, but I think it's really essential that the music supervisors and the composing team all are in communication with each other and have that camaraderie, because I think it can be very easily siloed. And like when we came on for The Boys, there was already a composing team there and Chris Leonard's and Matt came on full time on the 4th season, I think. But Chris had worked with Eric Kripke for a long time, so they were tight. Yeah. So they had a secondhand,
They speak the same language.
Totally. Yeah. It was like just they just knew what to do, and it's always tricky walking into those situations. But they were so warm and welcoming for us, and really collaborative, and all the spotting sessions were really just everybody was inclusive and kind. So I do think it's really important because it makes for a stronger team all around.
Yeah.
And a lot of times showrunners don't know whether they want score for a section or they want a song. So
and you can help
and you
communicate
both
that.
But you both sometimes will go for it too, and that's fun little competitive camaraderie too there. You're like, we want to do a score piece. And I was like, nope, it's going to be a song. So it's fun. But it makes for a stronger unit. It's a really good team building thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. What about you, Sara? Is it first of all, that show scared the pants off of me. Oh my gosh! The lead character, the lead actor, Matthew Rhys. I mean, he seems so kind in other roles. I was just like very scared of him. So how was your experience? Like, did you work closely with the music supervisor? Where did you get your musical? Where were your conversations coming from? Like director or a combination of?
Yeah, mainly from the showrunner. So yeah, he had, the show was just an example of a series where there was, the leadership was so strong. Like the showrunner, the writers, there was just such confidence, I think, in the story and in the show. And that just made it a pleasure to work on because when you have that leadership and confidence, it's then you're really, as a composer, I feel like able to sort of present ideas that maybe are bolder or that that you really feel are maybe different from what's expected. And I don't know, there was just such an openness to us experimenting and really pushing the boundary musically. So I think that really comes back to the showrunner and his vision.
And you have these relationships forever. That's why it's so important to like really pay attention to how you're treating people. When I look at shows, like when I look at podcasts and I look at conversations like this, I'm like, well, what if we're thinking 5 years ahead, why is this moment important? And it's important because 5 years ago or 10 years ago, when you were an assistant for Thomas and you were a friend, you came in and now you guys are doing a show together. You just never know who your personal network is going to be. And it always like seems to come back around in this town. Did you have anything to add to that?
Well, sort of going back to the collaboration, right? And I know initially we were talking about music supervisors and composers, working together. But I will touch upon, Michelle and I working together and like having the experiences that we did going way back, and then being able to work together on The Boys. I think, we each have different backgrounds, bringing different things to the table. We got along, and
Did you enter as a team?
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah, we did.
So what was that initial conversation like?
Well, it was like peak COVID, so there wasn't a lot happening.
It was like shut down city.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Sony had reached out. We have a good relationship with Sony, just having worked with them on Breaking Bad, and Better Call Saul, and a couple of other projects. And so they reached out and, hey, do you want to do this show? And so, Michelle and I talked about it, like, well, do you have the bandwidth to do it? Or can you do it? And so we pitched ourselves. We got a meeting, and they ended up going with us.
That's amazing. So pitching yourselves is important. Not every door is going to open because it just swings open.
Yeah.
You're going to have to go and knock a couple of times, and you guys knocked, someone answered for both of you. That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's, as they say, like, this business is all about relationships.
Oh, yeah.
And so, and things will follow you. Either how you work or how you treat folks, will follow you. And so it can make the difference between getting a project and not having anything for a while.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I'll just touch upon this too, going back to collaborating with composers. I think we can be certainly of benefit, as music supervisors to composers, if they're open to it, if everyone is open to it, especially if we're starting off on a project or a pilot and, everyone's trying to get their footing on what the sound of the project will be. And, so a lot of times we'll have to do like temp music. And so we're happy to, provide options, for that so that we can all sort of brainstorm together. So there definitely can be synergistic relationships between music soups and composers.
I love hearing that because I think, that conversation will happen at some point during the making of the show. So why not start it early, right? And like build that vibe and shared language, right? So it's so nice to hear you say that.
It might be the showrunners may not be familiar, like they assume the composer does it all or, music editor. And so, I forgot who mentioned it, but it does sort of come from the top too. Like if they're not sort of embracing everyone working together, then there might be the silo situation where,
Where it's
we stay in our
structurally that
lane,
way.
with songs and clearances and, the composers just do the score and,
And some projects are just set up that way.
Yeah.
They're just naturally siloed, and you just have to work within
Right.
whatever
Yeah.
the structure
Right.
is. It's not.
There's no
I
one
just
way.
like the full
Yeah.
collaborative.
For sure. I feel like that's one of the through lines that's kind of come out
Yeah.
in
Oh,
this
yeah.
conversation.
It makes it just so, and it also makes it's great during the process, but also during that when you're done and you all feel like you've collectively, really committed and to this project together, piece by piece, and that you can be like, that's my brick, and you all did it together. I think it's so important because oftentimes when it can create a different kind of environment when you have people like I'm over here.
Not as welcoming.
Yeah, not as welcoming.
It's never as fun. It's just not as fun.
Yeah.
I
The fun factor
what
is
it's
so
about.
important.
We still want to have fun. We want to be able to have conversations, and sometimes the conversations can be uncomfortable because we have different tastes. But be kind.
Yeah. And I think just when people come into it with an expectation that just the fact of collaboration is a gift, it kind of colors all the specific elements of the conversation differently, right?
Yep. This question is important. As budgets, technology, AI, streaming, and audience habits continue to change, what do you think we need to protect about the creative process?
Can I add a little something to it?
Yeah.
And what opportunities do you see for improving the creative process as well?
If any.
Yvette and I had like a little tech talk the other day that was actually, we left, I think, mutually inspired, hopefully.
Do share, because I'm at a loss for this one.
I still think that, AI is not going to go anywhere. It's here. I think there will be some beneficial uses if we can use it as a tool to elevate what we already do. I think there are going to be some productions where music is not a priority for them. And so they will probably go in the direction of AI.
Like filler music.
They will always do it. Like some of those productions exist already, so that's not new. But those filmmakers who care about music and what music does and how it tells a story, I believe will continue to care and want to hire humans to do that work. And as much as AI learns, I don't think that it will have the capability of pulling from each individual background. You know, if we're all from LA, we still won't have the same background. If we're all women, we won't have the same background.
Right.
There is a spiritual dimension to art, which maybe the silver lining is that it starts to emerge and it becomes more undeniable.
Yeah. And I think we just bring those pieces of ourselves into the work that we do, that AI may get close, but it cannot feel, it cannot do exactly the same thing and bring the same
Inspiration.
I was going to ask you that with being music supervisors, have you gotten, when you get those songs that are AI, how do you feel? I mean, do you get them and you're like, oh, this is great?
Do you get them?
Do you? I mean, I know you get them. No,
I don't think that I have. I've certainly come across them on Spotify.
oh man,
And
or just like on Instagram, like the stories. It's like this hazy overlay that's like I don't even know how I hear it immediately.
you know it. Yeah.
It's like
It's got that brain rot icing on it.
Yeah.
It is soulless. So
Yeah.
it just goes.
Sounds that way.
The only thing that I would mention though is, we know what music sounds like. We have years of experience with it. I don't know what that means for the kids who are being born now, who will grow up with that and see that as the norm.
How do you guys have any ideas about how we can protect it, or at least I'll proffer one idea that just occurred to me as you were talking. Part of it seems to be music education, actually, exposing kids to music making and actually high fidelity recording and hearing the difference. I remember, in the olden days when compressed audio was a big debate topic, and kids who had only heard MP3s growing up, it does actually affect your brain differently. They've done some studies. And so just the exposure to really high quality audio and creative experiences with music, especially at a time that things are getting cut a lot in the public school system.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I would say that it really does start with music in the schools, where you're all playing music together, and it will sound terrible, and then it will sound better, and then sometimes it sounds great too. But you really learn to work with people. You learn collaboration. You learn each little part's power in the whole. And that's how you learn teamwork. And you also learn to really appreciate music in the process of making it. Yeah. So,
yeah, I totally agree with that. Just thinking about like my time at USC working with student filmmakers and just how valuable and what a big part of my creative development that was, working, for no money on these short films with these directors that have so many different ideas. It was so exciting, and problem solving together with like limited resources, and those relationships to me are so valuable. They're people that I met then who I work with now, who are in, making features and all that. And I just think about how important it is to protect that. Because I imagine
such a great point
those
that in higher education and professional programs, it actually continues through to really. Miriam Cutler, actually one of the founders of the AWFC, sent me a really interesting message the other day. Not to interrupt you, but it's very aligned with what you're saying about how, her, like a big part of her mission now is to really educate filmmakers about the value of working with a composer and all the ways that opens up their storytelling. And so what you're saying really dovetails with that.
That's so cool. She's doing that. Yeah. I think it's so important. Think about think about Ludwig Göransson meeting Ryan Coogler back then at USC. And like, if they hadn't met, I'm sure Ludwig would still go on to do amazing things, but those relationships are just so important. So we got to protect it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I have a question. When it comes to AI, because this is not something that I've really thought about, but does AI affect you? Are there technologies that I'm unaware of? Like, are you like hearing like all these like crazy strings that sound realistic and you have to fight against that, your human experience, is it weighed against like this machine now?
I haven't experienced that yet. I really haven't. I don't know if maybe I have some blinders on that I shouldn't have on, but I haven't personally really experienced that yet. I'm seeing a lot of things online, lots of like AI string libraries and things like that are in the works. But it's not something that I've experienced the impact of yet, but I'm sure
I'm sure it's out there. I'm really like open to, I'm like usually an open person where I'm like, okay, we'll see. But one thing I know is like, there's nothing like band class. There's nothing like the camaraderie and the relationships that you make while in these experiences. And they're going to be like some really big problems because music, obviously it makes you do better with math. And I don't know who's going to be running things later because
everybody's going to be ADD.
They're taking music out of the schools and no one's going to know how to run anything but scrolling and endless doom scrolling. So I'm really a proponent for speaking up for music in schools, especially like in Oakland, California, where I'm from. It's taken, I think it's maybe in 2 schools now. And that is just as far as high schools, which is really, really saddening. Yeah.
A little shout out, since a lot of people will be listening. There's a wonderful organization here, Education Through Music LA, which actually is devoted to cultivating and training teachers for public school programs. And they're helping keep those programs alive in a lot of places. So we'll share resources at the end of the panel.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'll just also add that, what kids today have available that we didn't is access. If they didn't learn in school, there's tons of free programs online. Almost everyone has a computer. Yeah. So kids could theoretically like self-teach,
This is
true. And collaborate, right?
Yeah.
So I think the potential is there. It's just they need that initial introduction to sort of keep the ball rolling,
Well, and just like, one of the things that AI really shows is it amplifies intention. And so when it's trained on a certain kind of attitude of material, it basically multiplies and amplifies that. And so I think that one of the ways that we can start to think about this technology is how do we want to train it? What are the intentions that we are feeding it? And what is the content and the approach? And that's a place where I think artists should be very proactive because we have our values clear.
Yeah.
And it's important to be active in creating that.
And it's not going
And
away.
it
going
takes
away.
it away from just a profit-making space and
Yeah.
more oriented toward improving the world for people, hopefully, because since it isn't going away, right?
But it's important, like you said, like making sure we get behind like our legislators or lawmakers just to make sure that how it's being trained is because it was all willy-nilly some years ago, and like there was a big conversation that kind of shifted it where have a little bit of protections, but those protections are limited, and that we're going to have to re-vote on them.
It's an ongoing conversation.
Ongoing conversation that we do have to make sure that is trained properly. Okay. We have been here for a while, and Amplified is so happy to have each of you because all we want to do is to amplify each of you as composers, music supervisors, and as just women who are in this industry killing it. And so hats off.
Yes, kudos.
So we end this with Amplified each time. Amplified is also about paying amplification forward. We ask each of our guests to amplify another woman currently working in this business by saying her name and sharing why you believe she deserves to be seen, heard, or celebrated. Then we'll affirm that amplification by speaking her name too. Ashe. I'm gonna go with Carolyn Owens. Carolyn Owens is an amazing songwriter, creative. She calls herself Music Carolyn on Instagram because she is Music Carolyn. I'm not sure exactly what she does at Amazon, but it's something important, and of course in music. But on top of being such an incredible musician, an incredible executive, she's just a great person. She's a mother. She has twin boys that are like tweens or almost tweens, pre-tweens, and a 15-year-old. So God bless her, and she's doing God's work. But she does it with such ease, and her kids love her. It's a testament of who she is. She's always sending like, hey, have you thought about doing this? She's that person that reaches out to say like, have you thought about this? This is what could, if you see yourself in 5 years, are you doing this? Because this is how you can get there. She is such a wellspring of hope and inspiration. And I just want to say her name, Carolyn Owens.
Carolyn Owens.
Amazing. Oh man, there's so many, but I guess I'd have to say, since I mentioned her earlier, my former teacher at Columbia, Sasha DeCastri, because she's not in the film industry so much. She's in the music concert world, but
Exactly.
but she's stays in touch with me and often sends young students my way who are doing what I did when I was there, trying to do film scoring stuff in an environment that was like very contemporary classical, and she was just such a wonderful supporter to me and continues to be a longtime friend, and she's a wonderful composer in her own right. But I'm really grateful that she continues to connect me with students who are trying to pursue this crazy job. And so Sasha DeCastri.
Sasha DeCastri.
Gosh, there's so many. I don't even.
This is just round one. We'll have more.
I want to think. There's this amazing woman that worked for MPL Music Publishing for a long time that all of us in the music supervision world work with, Donna Young, and she retired last year. And she was, I remember being so nervous going to clear stuff from her. She's super nice, but I was like, this is Paul McCartney's publishing, and just asking like really, I was trying to license a musical for Grace and Frankie, and I had no idea all the complexities of licensing a musical, and I couldn't find out that information. And I reached out to her, and she spent so much time talking to me, walking me through it, but also on the phone. Like, there's things people will say on the phone they won't say in email, just about like, here's kind of the thing, but she was always so kind and thoughtful and really uplifting and positive to always work with. So yeah, I just want to thank Donna.
Donna Young.
Donna Young.
Donna Young.
One of the mavens, for sure. I think I want to amplify Angela Moonbaby Jolivet. Yes. She's a member of our collective, and I know she's really working on establishing herself in this industry, and it's certainly not the easiest to do. But I feel like I'm a spiritual person, and just having conversations with her, and I sort of get a sense of her spirituality and her being guided into different directions still within this industry and stepping out of it as well. And there's a certain grounding that I found with her. And I just see positive things happening in the future as she has her mind set in the direction that she's going towards. So I do want to amplify.
I see it too.
Angela
Jolivet.
Moon baby.
I would love to amplify a friend of mine, EmmoLei Blank. She's at the top of her craft. So I took my older son to see Spider-Man, A Brand New Day, and really our favorite movie of the year so far. We're really moved by it. That's a separate topic, but related. One of the things that I noticed as a viewer and a listener was just how expressive. She's a re-recording mixer, and that mix is so good. It has a dynamic range. It does not pummel you. It has big bigs, high highs, and low lows, and a lot of room to breathe with the performances. It really shows what a mix can be. And I think that the kind of overall sound mix is something that's so niche for people. Like, a lot of people don't even know, how it can change your experience of the world. But it's really sonically like this final, stage where it really becomes itself, and it's also kind of a performative medium where it brings out the performances, it brings out the pacing, and the drama. So. Yeah, she's just awesome. She's just a great person, and I think a beacon to women in a part of the industry, which is that technical side of things. It's also very expressive, but there's not a ton of women in that field, and she's at the top. So EmmoLei Blank.
EmmoLei Blank. And one more, we don't usually get to, but we are in her home, and she had to take a call and couldn't be with us for the rest of our time here. So I want to just honor Amanda Jones, who is such a talented, kind, amazing person. I think it's been about 9 years since that we've been friends, and I met her when she was at Lionsgate in a completely different capacity. And when there's something in this industry that I always talk about, you have to reach back and pull people forward, or you got to open the window or leave the door cracked or something like that. And I think Amanda and I did that for each other. She gave me a call, maybe 2 weeks after I just had a general meeting at Lionsgate. And she was just like, hey, obviously she had been composing and she had been doing so well at it, but she also just took the jump based on I had a meeting with her, and Angela had a meeting with her. And after those two meetings, she was like, you guys, I'm about to go for it. And she went for it. And look at her now. We're so proud of you, Amanda.
Amanda
Jones.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Thanks to our distinguished panelists. And we hope you've enjoyed this iteration of AWFC Amplified.
Amplified.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you.